Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. Got my good cup of coffee, and I'm here to ramble because that's what I do. Mm. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been able to break away and do this for you guys, but not that anybody watches, anyways. um, but yeah, like I've been inundated with orders for jerky and just normal day in and day out stuff. If some of you guys didn't know, I am a healthcare recruiter for an agency. I won't disclose who, but I feel like I've had several conversations over this last week with people about what they thought it was going to be like versus what it actually is. Um, for healthcare recruiting, it's kind of a small group. Like, we know each other, even though we work in different agencies and things like that. The whole goal, though, is to get you a job, finding you where you want to go, right? But if you're looking and you're going to use platforms like Vivian, Indeed, Glassdoor, Nomad, any of these, what's fundamentally important for you guys to know as travelers is those websites are there to capture your information. So let's just say Doug gets on there. Doug, because I used to travel too. I'm one of the only other healthcare recruiters out there. There's not a whole lot of us that have been on both sides of the fence. So I used to travel for a local agency up here in Northern California, and they would send me from here to there and, everywhere. And I didn't realize how much about this I didn't know. And if you're just now thinking about getting into healthcare traveling, there's a lot of things you don't know that you don't know. So, um, one of the things that I would say is you're going to go on these websites and you're going to see these amazing jobs that are $3,000 a month or $4,000 a month, depending on what modality you're in, right? If you're sterile processing tech, those rates are going to be lower, generally speaking. If you're a first assisting CVOR tech, well, things are going to be better. If you're a cath lab or you do IR, those rates are going to be crazy high. Um, it just depends on where, right? And how comfortable you are going. This whole thing is not to is not meant to drop jobs in your lap where you are. That's an uncomfortable truth. Now, if you live in a major city, um, Montgomery, Alabama, Albany, New York, down to New York, New York, Miami, Florida, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Washington, Tacoma. If you're in a major city, you're going to have more to choose from. But if you're in a rural area and you're hoping to find a job somewhere, the odds of probability are not in your favor at all. So when it comes to traveling, you really do need to be able to branch out. And sometimes you've got kids, you've got animals, you got things that keep you there, and that's okay. Traveling's probably not for you at this time. Doesn't mean you can't in the future. But the reality is this too. The upside to travel and the reason why most people get into traveling is because the pay is significantly better. And because the federal government, through the GSA's website, gives recommendations, and I'm going to tell you, they're recommendations, they're not mandates, of how much it should be allocated to cover the cost of living in one area over another. This is why when you look and you see rates in Boston, Massachusetts, and San Francisco, California, those rates are high. They're crazy high. But so is the cost of living. You look in Boston and those jobs, they pay really well. But a one-bedroom apartment in Boston is going to cost you a minimum of $2,000 a month if you can find one. If you can find one. So San Francisco is a little bit different. And my advice to my clinicians that work for me is to just zoom out on Furnish Finder or whatever platform you use to find housing and find something 15, 20 minutes away outside of the facility that you want to go to. Do this before you commit to a job. Don't just tell your recruiter, hey, put me in there, and then realize, a day later, oh, there's nowhere for me to stay. All that does is it wastes your time, it wastes your recruiter's time, it wastes, and not it's not just your recruiter, it's the account managers that are doing this too, right? That's just on the submitting side. The receiving side, the facility, they have people looking too. And if you're just going to back out, all you're doing is wasting their time too. So it's really important that you're very intentional about going after jobs. Now, this is where hiring a good recruiter comes in. And I say hiring because I always look at my team and my clinicians as a partnership. I'm covering things on the inside, they're covering things on the outside. And together we make it happen and we're good at it. But when you are looking for a good recruiter, interview that recruiter. Ask them, how do you build your pay packages? Where does that money come from? All of these questions. And as a new clinician, sometimes you don't even know. You don't even know what to ask. I can't tell you how many people come out of school expecting to walk right into a job. And truth be told, with the exception of some modalities in imaging, um, everybody's going to want 2 years experience minimum, you know? The other thing is, and I'm going to kind of go back to those platforms for a minute. These websites, where you see all of these jobs and find a recruiter and all of this stuff, those jobs are there to capture your information and your contact information. What they do with that then is they sell your data, your information, your contact information to agencies like other recruiting agencies. I'm not going to name names because I don't really disparage my competition. I don't need to. They do it by themselves, anyways. Um, but uh, that's all it is. The other part, the worst part for you as a traveler, is you think that that job that you're looking at is real, and those websites like Vivian, and the rest, they don't police the accuracy of those jobs. So they'll let Bob at Bob's staffing agency post some ungodly rate, something that doesn't even make sense on that website, and all it is clickbait so that you click on it and they capture your information. My best advice to you is to go on like Grok or ChatGPT and ask it to find out and parse out agencies with the best reputations, because it'll do that based off of reviews. Make sure you tell it to do that. Once you do that, then it comes into finding a good recruiter, right? Ask your recruiter, hey, how long have you been doing what you've been doing? You um, I kind of came into this. I was a nurse during COVID, and then they wanted me to get vaccinated, and I told them to where they could put that because that was definitely not informed consent, and it was illegal. And we've all been there. If you're a current traveler, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hold on a second. Mm, man, you got to take time out for good coffee. Um, but yeah, they if they're new, they're still learning. And if you're okay with that, then by all means go with it. That's okay. Cuz I was there too. But when I came to my company and I learned what the business side of this whole industry was, I was blown away. My jaw hit the floor. And I remember in that class, they were like, well, the facility has a set rate, and that's called the bill rate. The bill rate, it doesn't matter what agency you work for, that's the rate that the agency you work for bills the facility for every hour that you work there. Then from that point, from that, you multiply that by um, the weeks in or the number of hours worked in the week by the weeks in the shift. And this is the important thing to remember. You multiply that number and it comes up with a one giant lump sum of money. Let's just say it's 30, 50, $60,000, whatever. That's what you need to be focused on. Now, that amount, depending on how it's split up, is the other question that your recruiter at any facility should be able to answer directly, right? So, Doug, tell me, so it's $30,000 for these 13 weeks. How do you guys come up with that money? Because I saw the same job at the same facility in Jackson, Mississippi, and agency X had it for $2,000 a week, and you have it for $2,050 a week. Why is there a difference for the same job? Well, the thing that you don't typically know, or travelers don't know, is that at other agencies, those agencies are working off of a gross margin spread. Your recruiter is trying to garner a commission, right? Because nobody's going to work for free, you know. That's just real life. Um and I'm going to kind of try not to bounce around, but I promise I'll tie it all together. So, going back to that big bag of money, that contract value, your agency is going to keep their piece first, right? Because they have to keep the lights on and they have to keep growing as a company. And mind you, every single one of these companies is for profit, and a company's whole existence is to grow. So the hard part, my job, is to manage the relationship between growing and making sure you as a traveler are happy with the rate that you get. Same thing goes over with agency X. Hopefully you have a good recruiter and they tell you, yeah, um, I know FlexCare has, there it was. Might have to edit that out. Maybe I won't. I don't care. Um, Agency X has it for, um, I don't know, $2,000, and we have it for 2,050. Well, the recruiter over at that agency works off of that commission spread. So they're trying to make sure that you're happy with the rate and taking that job. The other thing that a lot of you may not know is when there are things like bonuses, incentives, reimbursements, and things like that, those those are good because everybody loves the feeling that they're getting something for free. But I'll bet you dollars to donuts, you've been around long enough to know that nothing's free, right? So then when it comes to the time where you have to, I don't know, recertify your CST or your BLS or your ART, whatever it is, then you go to your recruiter and say, hey, I need a reimbursement for this. Okay. Um, well, we'll go ahead and do that for you, but we'll make sure we get that paid to you at the end of your assignment. Okay. The thing that you aren't aware of is that, let's just say that $130 BLS or whatever that cert is, is $130. Your assignment's 13 weeks long. All that does is it drops your weekly amount from, let's say, $2,000 a week to 1990 per week. They just spread it out. And at other agencies, they get really creative with that stuff. Again, that is something that one of your recruiters, no matter what agency you go to, should be able to articulate to the point that you have zero questions and 100% understanding of the mechanism behind that. You know, um, oh, I can't tell you how many times people call me to tell me nobody ever explained it to me the way you did. You know, and that's kind of a draw dropping moment. My agency, we pride ourselves on transparency. We want those questions because for us, it makes us better recruiters. And through that, I mean, most of the clinicians that I've had for the better part of 5 years, even with higher rates over here or over there. They know, one, I'm totally available. Now, my agency, we work off of what's called the sole point of contact, meaning that from the first conversation and the first time you kind of step into the website of Flex Care, I'm the only voice you're ever going to hear. And that's nice. Not to mention the fact that I'm pretty much always a call or a text away. Now, I have a lot of the answers, and if I don't have the answers, I'm going to let you know because I'm human, but I'm going to go find out. You know, turn in a late timesheet or you flub the numbers on a timesheet or something. I'm the one calling you. I'm the one that handles your all your compliance. We have a compliance team and we have a payroll department too, but I wear all of these hats and basically am sorting all of this out for all of you guys. But the point is, you have one place to go. So you and I, me and my clinicians, are all on the same page. You know, um, there isn't really anything that I told a clinician this yesterday, actually Friday. Um, there's nothing we can't get through together. You know, one thing I don't have control over is who you're going to rub elbows with at a facility, you know. But here's the thing, if it works out and it's great, stay. If it's not, you're only there for 13 weeks, you know. Um, but in the meantime, you're hopefully making money hand over fist. So, uh, that's one of those things. And letting clinicians behind the recruiter's curtain, I feel does so much service. Most of my clinicians know these details that I'm talking to you about more than probably any other agency or any other clinicians, you know. But being the sole point of contact here, you're not going to get passed off to a payroll department and wait 2 days for your answer on whether your timesheet or you're going to get paid or not because you turned in the timesheet late. Um, you know, what benefits, same kind of thing. Um, we get answers back to our clinicians quickly. And I tell everybody, like, give me at least 24 hours to get back to you. But since I've been here, I think the longest anybody ever had to wait was about 6 hours. And that doesn't even happen anymore because I've grown into this job. You know, I think the thing that most clinicians are expecting versus what's real is that they think, "Oh, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make all of this money." You can, 100% do that. But what is it going to take? What do you have to give up in order to get there? You know? Okay, if you live in Virginia and there's a job that's paying $2,500 a week and it's in North Dakota in the wintertime, who wants to go to North Dakota in the wintertime when it's, 40 below? I don't. I live in California. um, but there are people that do. Are you willing and are you able to go through those logistics and assessing whether or not you're fit enough for yourself to get yourself there? You know, a lot of companies will say, "Oh yeah, we'll cover your travel pay and all of this stuff." You're not even aware. It's not going to. They're not doing that for free. You're paying for that out of the billing rate. So when you need travel reimbursements, bags of jerky, whatever it is, whatever it takes to get you there, every week that you work, they're scraping and recovering that cost off of what you should be paid. And that's one of those things. There's a book by Robert Greene called The 48 Laws of Power. And one of those chapters is Despise the Free Lunch. Now you think about that for a minute. Nothing's free. It costs something. Your agency isn't going to just generously foot the bill for that cost. They're going to scrape it off of the bill rate. Now, for us, we do a flat rate, meaning what I make, it's all bundled into one flat rate. And so the nice thing for you as a traveler is that you get to choose. I don't I'm not incentivized on making a 6% spread on a job that's $900 a week or $4,500 a week. I get paid the same either way, right? What I want is for you to find the right job for you that you've been matched with, right? We take a lot more extra care in making sure you're the right person for that job. Other agencies, they will shotgun blast your profile out there to 100 different places hoping something sticks, and then when it does, they call you and try to talk you into that job. I don't play that game. Most of our clinic or our recruiters here don't play that game. It's not a good practice because if you end up declining an offer that was sent to a facility or sent to your agency, you don't get very many of those before you become blacklisted. And what a lot of you may not know is that for all healthcare agencies across connecting to all facilities that use staffers, there's only about 25 avenues that are used by all staffing agencies to connect to all facilities. We are an agency we play nice with everybody in the sandbox. So we're universally accepted across every single one of these management service providers. You kind of think of them as the middleman, right? That connects facilities to staffing companies. Well, there was one time where I had two respiratory therapists as a team accept a job up in Boston. Now, there is a very large management service provider. In fact, they're the biggest, and they hold about 3,400, last time I checked, uh, different facilities that they use to staff. Well, as recruiters, there's times where we can see who's submitted where and with who, you know. So don't think that you're trying to pull the wool over your recruiter's eyes if you're double dipping. But here's what ended up happening. This couple, the power couple, decided they wanted to take this job in Boston because they applied for it. So I'm assuming, yeah, you would take that offer, assuming the interview went well. Why wouldn't you? They backed out during the compliance process. So we made it through the signing of the contract, the commitment of the contract and the assignment, and then halfway through, I think they saw or thought the grass was greener somewhere else. So they backed out. And I told them, I'm like, guys, please, if it's me and you want a different recruiter, tell me. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. But for your sake, don't back out after you've committed. Well, they did. And then turns out it was like a week later, we saw their names pop up down in Florida, and they were kicked out immediately, declined. So, your recruiter at your agency should talk to you about the good, the bad, and the ugly, the do's and do nots about traveling. Um, but most people are good people that just want to work, and I'm here for that, you know. Mm. So that was my brief rant. That's kind of like my spiel when new clinicians call. Um, but yeah, you kind of got to be careful out there. And if I were to do it again, there's not another company out there, because I worked for another one before I came here, only because this company opened their doors to me, you know. And I'm so thankful. This company tries so hard to make sure its employees are happy, and it's a good company. I have clinicians that are working in assignments in South Dakota that are exclusive, well, not necessarily exclusive, but um, they're held by other management service providers that also do staffing. And they still, even though the rate would be higher with them, they stay with me, and they have stayed with me because of the support, because of they know they got Dougie Fresh in their back pocket, that if they need something, I'm there. I tell them the reality, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, um, that's the kind of recruiter you want. You know, Sabrina, I'm still friends with her to this day on Facebook. She's no longer with the other agency, but that was one where I truly believed and trusted. Um, she would tell me the nitty gritty. She would tell me all of the bullshit that I needed to know. You know, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. You know, and that I took from that. And then later I said, hey, you're welcome. Because now I realized, because as a recruiter, you're going to come across good apples and bad apples because you're just dealing with people. Um, but I knew the kind of work ethic I had. And every job that I went to, I ended up fixing and improving, you know. Not to mention, I have a work ethic that is from uh, from Generation X, you know. And it seems like that's slowly evaporating. But I have faith. I have belief that the things are going to be okay. Even with these young kids coming into this, it's fun. So anyways, this is just a long rant and ramble. And if you're in healthcare or you're considering traveling, um, you know, DM me down below and I'll help you out in how to navigate. I tell people, coming out of school, like, how do you find the right agency? How do you find the right recruiter? Because you don't know what you don't know, you know? Um, and that's tricky because you can go on you can go on and see all the reviews and all the reviews, and you flip over the, you know, the one stars to the top and things like that, and he's like, okay, what is this? And there are two very large agencies out there, We'll call them Coke and Pepsi. Um, they're popular, and that's why people go to them. But their internal structure and their organization cannot even come close to what we do. It's not. It's volume driven. And so, like my agency that I worked for, if you had a pulse and you had your certs, come on in. We'll get you a job. Okay. But when you have questions to be answered and you need something or you need to get a hold of somebody right away, good luck. That's the reality. Not to mention, you've got, your sales guy, your recruiter talking you into this awesome job. And, you know, and then you're passed off to somebody else trying to get compliant, having to wait on payroll for an answer. How do you think that makes you feel? I've been there. It sucks, especially when you have a newborn, you know. The other thing is that nobody ever explained to me the minutia of the benefits package. Um, I needed a break. You guys know nursing sucks sometimes. It's stressful for sure. But I took 2 weeks off. And then I found out my benefits expired. I'm like, what is this? They're like, well, if you don't maintain 160 billable hours per month, your benefits expire. Well, it's on me, really, to have gone over and read the fine print. But wouldn't you want a recruiter that highlights that kind of stuff? You know, that's what I do. I want you guys to know the asterisks, the hey, here's the catch, be careful, you know, because contracts are contracts. And that's the other thing, too. Contracts aren't there to hold your feet to the fire. Contracts exist to remind you of the boundaries. It's not a gotcha. It's not that. Contracts are there for reminding. But I had to wait, and then I had to re-enroll, and then I had to wait a whole nother month before my benefits came into play. And so I was stuck working for 6 weeks before my benefits became active again. That fucking pissed me off. You know, it did. But I'm just talking to you like a real guy. You know, if I'm at work and you guys happen to come across me, um, I obviously gonna have my more professional hat on, but you catch Doug on a Saturday, and I'm a real person, you know, that genuinely cares about people because I've been where you are. I know what it's like, and it sucks sometimes, especially when your recruiter at Agency X is feeding you a line of bullshit. That's the other thing. I tell people if there's something that's being told to you or somebody's coming across with that silver tongue, um, if it makes you raise an eyebrow or the hair on the back of your neck stands up or something like that, um, just dig in. Keep me in your back pocket. I tell people through the little like text template that comes across that's so annoying. Listen, I've been out of nursing for 5 years. I still get them. I still get them. Hey, come back. We got this great deal. Um, but uh, it's always good to have a resource in your back pocket, even if you don't use them. You know, a lot of them, these companies structure are like profit, get those calls, and sure, it doesn't work if you don't do that. But uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna wrap this up. If you guys want some good snacks, I'm gonna sponsor my side hustle. Cool story. Um, I went into nursing, and then I really saw the ugly side of it, the the profitability side of it, and how they were passively asking us or encouraging us to check certain boxes. Not directly, no, because they got to give themselves an out, just so they could keep patients a day or two longer for billing, because they're profit machines. Hospitals are corporations. Don't ever forget that. They're money machines. Um, so I quit. I went back to my day job, which I loved, which was just interacting with people. And I started making jerky out of my garage, and it's finally turned into something awesome. Um, let's see. This is my company. Oh, it's not showing. It's all blurred out. Oh, there we go. Yep. Vibejerky.com. Or sorry, it's vibe-jerky.com. Um, and it grew. Part of this was because of the company that I work for are very big on self-improvement and people winning. That goes right over to you guys too. I want the same for you. I want you to win. I want to support you in any direction you want to go as long as it's healthy. Um, and I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I wouldn't be the successful recruiter that I am or have such an amazing team to work with or Vibe Jerky if I didn't come here. And I'm so thankful that FlexCare opened the door to a burnout nurse in the middle of a pandemic. So, that said, I hope all of this was informative. And if you guys have questions, um, you can hit me up and ask me questions in the comments down below. Um, I'm not going to give my phone number. I'm new to this whole social media thing. So, um, anyways, have a great Saturday. Know that you're worth it. You know, um, you are stronger than you think you are, and you're definitely better looking than you think you are. Um, so, all right, guys. Till the next time, I'll see you. I don't know when. I'm going to try to post a little more regularly, but I'm busy. I'm so busy. Like as a recruiter, I'm working a minimum of 50, 60 hours a week. And then there's the side hustle. So, all right, guys, have a great weekend. I'm not going to keep you any longer. Peace.